up, Planeswalkers? It's your boy K-Dog. Let's jump into some Historic Brawl for the FNM event. This one we're taking a look at a interesting commander here, an Admiral Beckett Brass. For those of you not familiar, don't remember, Beckett Brass is a 4-mana 3/3 human pirate. Other pirates you control get +1/+1, so it's a pirate lord. And the interesting thing here with Beckett Brass is at the beginning of your end step, gain control of target non-land permanent controlled by a player who has dealt combat damage by 3 or more pirates this turn. So you have to deal combat damage with at least 3 pirates, and then you can steal any non-land permanent on your opponent's side. That's a pretty powerful effect, but it's obviously very conditional. So trying to focus on pirates that are evasive and just enough removal and some other spells that kind of help us get through for combat damage, and we can kind of take our opponent's biggest, most threatening permanent or something that's going to help us win the game. And yeah, just use your opponent's things against them. Use the kind of evasion to kind of chip away for combat damage, and just kind of whittle your opponent down like that. So we're looking at Siren Stormtamer. It's a nice 1/1 flyer for 1 mana, so it's a nice evasive body and a little bit of protection for Beckett Brass or something like that. As we can sack it to counter a spell or ability that targets you or a creature you control. Spectral Sailor is also another pirate, 1/1 with flash and flying, and it's got this nice 4 mana to draw a card, so that works great if you're kind of digging for those last answers here to close out the game. Daring Buccaneer, you need some number of pirates here in the early curve, and Daring Buccaneer is pretty solid. It just has a 2/2 for 1 mana. It doesn't have any evasive bodies, but it doesn't have anything evasive necessarily about it, but just having the bodies on the board in the early turns is pretty important. So I think this is the one that I chose to take a look at. So it's a 2/2 for 1. However, an additional cost to cast a spell, you have to reveal a pirate or pay 2 mana. So it could be a 3 mana 2/2 in certain situations, like if you top deck it later on. But you're usually not too worried about paying 3 mana in the late game for it. But having this in opening hand, you can have other pirates, so this should be. If you have this in opening hand, that's great. And if you top deck it, it's not terrible. Fanatical Firebrand is a 1/1 with haste, and you can sack it 2 to 1 damage to any target. So just having a 1 mana 1/1 with haste gives us another option to kind of chip in for damage, and also makes things difficult for your opponent if they're trying to figure out blocking, because you can always ping it with ping one of your opponent's blocking creatures with a Fanatical Firebrand to the last point of damage and things like that. Daring Saboteur is a 2/1 for 2 mana. However, we can pay 3 mana so that it cannot be blocked this turn, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, we can draw a card. If we do, discard a card. So I don't know how often we'll be using that ability, but there's the fact that you can potentially activate this to make it unblockable. And 3 mana isn't too crazy, especially in a format like Brawl, where things are usually a little bit slower. You have more time to kind of develop your board state, and we have a lot of kind of cheap creatures. 2, we're pretty heavily invested on 2 mana creatures. So having 3 mana open to make this unblockable isn't too hard to imagine. Departed Deckhand is a 2/2 pirate for 2. Whatever becomes a target of any spell, sacrifice it. So definitely some downside there. But if your opponent's targeting with something, that's probably going to kill anyways. I mean, it's only a 2/2, so it's not really that big of a deal. However, the nice upside here is it can't be blocked except by spirits. So I don't think we're going to be coming across too many spirits. There could be some here and there. But yeah, for the most part, this is basically a 2/2 for 2. It's not block. Your opponent's not going to be able to block it. And also, you can pay 4 to another creature you control can't be blocked this turn except by spirits as well. So again, you can nice little mana sink to make one of your other creatures unblockable. So it works perfectly with Beckett Brass. So yeah, Negate is just kind of a nice protection spell. There's not really too many board wipes in Brawl, but there's definitely some certain more slow mid-rangey type commanders. So we do need some form of protection, even just like spot removal or planeswalkers that are pretty nasty, like a Liliana or things like that, Nicol Bolas. So Negate is a nice answer for that to kind of deal with any removal, whether it's sweepers or target removal or planeswalkers. Stormfleet Aerialist is a 1/2 for 2 mana. However, if we attacked with a creature, then we get it comes in with a +1/+1 counter. So a 2/3 flyer for 2 mana is pretty solid, and it's a nice evasive body. Tail's End is just kind of a nice Brawl staple for me, being able to counter target activated, triggered ability, or legendary spell. Obviously, you can counter your opponent's commander, and there's plenty of other legendary creatures, planeswalkers, you can counter with this as well. And even the activated and triggered abilities can be pretty clutch in a lot of situations as well. Warkite Marauder is another 2/1 flyer for 2 mana. And whenever it attacks target creature defending player controls, lose all abilities, and has base power and toughness 0/1 until end of turn. So if your opponent has a flyer that can potentially block some of your creatures, Warkite Marauder says no, loses all abilities and becomes a 0/1. So that creature no longer has flying and just a 0/1. So it just makes it that much easier for you to get in through the air. So we're definitely heavily flyer focused with a lot of these creatures because it gives us a nice evasive body. And we do have some removal for you when your opponent does have flying creatures that can block you. Things like Cast Down, destroy a non-legendary creature for 2 mana instant speed. Just nice and efficient. Dire Fleet Hoarder is a 2/1 for 2. However, when it dies, we create a treasure token. So we are in a 3-color deck. This is a decently sided body. 2 power for 2 mana is reasonable, and being able to get that little treasure token for some fixing or a ramp is actually pretty important. So that's why we're running that over some other options. Dire Fleet Poisoner, just a nice kind of versatile card, 2/2 for 2 mana. Flash and Death Touch. When it enters target attacking pirate you control, gets +1/+1 in Death Touch until end of turn. So this can kind of come in during your opponent's combat step. They attack in. You have some creature that you want to get rid of. You can just flash in a Dire Fleet Poisoner, block, kill it. If you need to push through for more damage and really put the pressure on your opponent with your flying creatures, for example, you can flash in the Dire Fleet Poisoner during combat and give the +1/+1 bonus to whatever creature wasn't blocked. Or if you need to, just kind of attack all to get those 3 pirates in and they still have a good block on one of your pirates, then you can just flash this in, give one of those, the pirate that was blocked, +1 Death Touch, and then kill your opponent's creature, even if it was something way bigger. So just kind of a nice versatile option. Fathom Fleet Captain is a 2/1 for 2 mana. It has Menace, so that's what gives it some nice evasion in that way. And whenever it attacks, if you control another pirate, you can pay 2, and if you do, create a 2/2 black pirate creature token with Menace. This is just kind of a nice creature token factory. It's 1 toughness, so if your opponent has just like any creatures, it's a little bit vulnerable, but it still replaces itself with a 2/2. And you're probably going to be attacking with multiple pirates anyway, so it's going to be difficult for your opponent to kind of take care of this and everything else that you're trying to do at the same time. Heartless Act is another nicely efficient removal spell. And its speed, destroy a creature with no counters on it, or remove up to 3 counters from target creature. Kite Sail Freebooter. It's a nice 1/2 creature with flying, and whenever it enters the battlefield, we look at our opponent's hand and choose any non-creature, non-land card from it, and exile that card until Kite Sail Freebooter leaves the battlefield. So we're not really trying to play a long game, so we need to kind of a little bit of tempo plays like this to kind of steal our opponent's powerful removal or planeswalkers, etc. Tuck them under the Kite Sail Freebooter. It'll buy us some time until they find some removal to kill the Freebooter. And meantime, we have a nice 1/2 flying body that can attack in, potentially help us trigger our Beckett Brass. Dire Fleet Daredevil is a nice versatile card here as well. 2/1 First Striker for 2 mana. When it enters, we exile an instant or sorcery from an opponent's graveyard, and we can cast that this turn using mana as it were mana of any type. If it doesn't get cast, then it just goes to exile. Also got Goblin Trailblazer. It's another 2/1 with Menace. Doesn't have any special abilities, but it does have Menace. And 2 power body is reasonable. And some more removal here in the form of Tyrant Scorn. You can destroy any creature on your opponent's side with mana 3 or less, or you can turn any creature to its owner's hand. This includes our own creatures as well, so if we need to protect something from removal, we can always bounce on our own creatures. And then, of course, anything that's 4 mana or greater on our opponent's side, we can just bounce it instead of killing it, just to kind of help our pirates get through for damage with our Menace, flying, etc. So we're in a 3-card deck, so we do need a little bit of extra fixing here in Arcane Signet. We're not too worried about the ramp, just more interest in the fixing aspect of Signet. And there are going to be some times where you're going to need to do multiple spells per turn, and Arcane Signet can help you out in those situations. So sometimes the ramp is definitely relevant. And onto the 3 drops here, we got Siren Lookout, 1/2 flyer for 3 mana. So not really a great deal. However, when it enters the battlefield, it explores. So it can draw you a land or get a +1/+1 counter on it. So it's decent in that regard, especially, we are a 3-card deck. We need to find land drops to have all of our fixing. So I think it's worth, just barely makes the cut for me. Slippery Scoundrel here is a 2/2 for 3 mana. It has Ascend as long as you have the City's Blessing. Slippery Scoundrel has hexproof and can't be blocked. So City's Blessing is 10 permanents of any kind, so that includes your lands, creatures, etc. And once you have the City's Blessing, you don't lose it. So once you get there, then Slippery Scoundrel becomes unblockable and hexproof. So that's another fantastic evasive body to help you get through. Let's have Murderous Rider, just a fantastic all-around card. Removal for creatures, planeswalkers. Then you can kind of come down as a 2/3 life-linking body as well. And just kind of hold down the fort defensively while you're swinging in with your pirates. And while you're swinging with pirates, you can play a Rune Raider. And beginning of your end step, if you attack this turn, reveal the top card of your library, put that card into your hand. You lose life equal to that card's converted mana cost. So it's 3/2 for 3 mana, which is pretty decent. And it's card draw, which is fantastic. So it sucks that it's at your end step, so it's not like you can actually cast that unless it's an instant, and you happen to have the right mana open. So it is very situational in that regard, but it still draws you a card for your next turn, which is fantastic. You're going to lose some life off of it, but most of our curve is pretty low, and we're kind of an aggro style deck, so we're trying to win the game quicker and not have a really long protracted game anyway. So Rune Raider kind of helps you dig for those answers, more pirates, removal, etc. And you're going to be taking some life, but you don't really care. You just want to kill your opponent faster than they can do anything about it. And that's going to help. Stormfleet Sprinter here is a 3 mana 2/2 with haste. And it cannot be blocked, so that's pretty sweet. It's definitely an auto-include here. The Royal Scion. Since we are an aggro deck, I think Royal Scions fits into those style of decks quite nicely. So let me take a look at the Royal Scions. To give a +1 to give a target creature +2/+0 and first strike and trample until end of turn. So like our Daring Buccaneer, that's just a 2/2. What do we got? The Direfleet Poisoner that just has Death Touch and Flash. We can give those creatures trample, and that'll help us deal combat damage to our opponent, help us trigger our Beckett Brass, and also the card selection as well, drawing a card and discarding a card. We're pretty low on the curve, like I said, so just getting rid of extra lands once you're set up, then you can easily filter that and kind of find more relevant spells. So Bedevil here, it's a little bit tricky with the double black and the red for our 3-color deck, but it's still just the flexibility for targeting creatures, artifacts, or planeswalkers. I think makes it worth looking at. Moving on to the 4-drop slot, we have Dreamcaller Siren. It's a 3/3 flying for 4 mana, so it's not terrible. It does have Flash, which is pretty cool. It can only block creatures with flying. However, when it enters the battlefield, if you control another pirate, tap up to 2 target non-land permanents. So it's another way for us to kind of tap down creatures on our opponent's side and help us get through for damage. So it's pretty sweet that way. And also, just the fact that you can get any non-land permanents can certain kind of mess with your opponent's ability to tap, artifacts or things like that. Siren Reaver is a 3/2 for 4 mana. However, if we attack this turn, it costs 1 less to cast. So it's a 3 mana 3/2. So it's not terrible, but just the fact that it's a 3 powered flying creature, I think it makes it worth taking a look at here. Sleep is going to let us get through for combat damage. We tap all creatures on our opponent's side, and those creatures don't untap during the next untap step. So just a fantastic tempo play for us. Price of Fame is another kind of staple for me in a Brawl type format, as a 4-mana instant speed to destroy a target creature. However, it costs 2 less if a target gets a legendary creature. So obviously in Brawl there's going to be tons of legendary creatures, so Price of Fame will more often than not be a 2-mana instant speed destroy target legendary creature, and it has the little bonus of Surveil too, which is always nice having that little bit of card selection. Some additional ways to help us get through for damage similar to Sleep are Cosmotronic Wave, dealing 1 damage to each creature your opponents control. Sometimes can be relevant. There are like Reese and other kind of token strategies. But most part, you don't really care about that. You just care about the creatures your opponents control can't block this turn. That'll make it very easy for you to deal combat damage with 3 or more pirates. Tectonic Rift. To destroy target land, creatures without flying can't block this turn. So there's not really a whole lot of flyers typically in Brawl. There's definitely some, but haven't been too prevalent from what I've seen. So Tectonic Rift is basically another way to kind of make your creatures unblockable. And destroying a target land can be pretty damaging in certain matchups. Like obviously we're a 3-color deck. If someone takes out our, maybe we've only drawn a single black source, then Tectonic Rift takes that out, and we're going to be kind of screwed from that point. So certain decks this can do like a ton of damage against. I also got the Akroan War. It's kind of a one-sided board wipe. It's a 3 chapters saga. When it enters, we gain control of target creature for as long as the Akroan War remains on the battlefield, and until your next turn, creatures your opponents control attack each combat at Fable, and then each tapped creature deals damage to itself equal to its power. So we're gonna steal our one of our opponent's best creatures, or something that's gonna help us get through for damage. Maybe their flying creature or something like that, and then your opponent's going to be forced to attack you, leaving themselves wide open for you to attack them back, and then all those creatures are going to deal damage to themselves. So Obviously, there are some number of creatures that do have a differential from power and toughness. They're going to make this not very good, but Crown War, a lot of situations, is still a fantastic one-sided board wipe. And finally here we have Hostage Taker. It's 4 mana, 2/3, so not great. However, when it enters the battlefield, exile another target creature or artifact until Hostage Taker leaves the battlefield, and we can cast that artifact or creature as long as Hostage Taker remains on the battlefield using mana of spending mana of any type. So it's a nice way to kind of steal one of our opponent's creatures, even just kind of as a tempo play to kind of take it off the board before combat and then swing through. That can be often enough right there, and then the following turn we can probably have mana to cast it. So it's a pretty sweet value play. So going over the mana base, try not to run too many tap lands because we are kind of an aggressive deck. So we are running 4 islands, 3 swamp, 3 mountains, and then the 1 castle Embereth, 1 castle Locthwain, and then just 3 of most of the dual lands. So Drowned Catacomb, Temple of Deceit, Watergrave, Steamvent, Sulphur Falls, Temple of Epiphany, Blood Crypt, Dragon Skull Summit, Temple of Malice. Then we got Command Tower, Fabled Passage, and Unclaimed Territory. As Unclaimed Territory enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. It taps for colorless, so it's more up. So it's has that going for it over, say, the new one we got in the Historic, the Ancient Ziggurat, I believe it's called, where it only lets you tap mana for creatures. Unclaimed Territory, you have to choose a creature type, and you add 1 mana of any card you cast creature spells of that type. However, it lets you tap for colorless, which is something that the Ziggurat does not do. So that's why we're not running that, because we have lots of key non-creature spells. So that's why we are not running that. All right, so that's the deck, and let's jump into some matches, see how we do. All right, up against Marwyn. Okay, so got some Elf Tribal against Pirate Tribal. This hand's okay. We'll try it. We have some removal. We're missing a second black source for Bedevil, but everything else is castable, and we got the temple here on 1. Don't need more blue. We have 3 blue sources already. Slow start from our opponent. We'll take it. So next turn we have the Lookout or Sprinter. Elfane Druid. Okay, there's a second red source. We're just looking for more black. I think we just go for the Lookout, try to find a swamp or some kind of a black mana source. Nope, island. Okay. And down comes Marwyn. So Marwyn can get out of control, so that's a little scary. However, I think we just need to get in for more damage. Let's go and attack 2, and then on their upkeep, I think we'll flash in the Siren, Dreamcaller Siren. They can tap for mana, but they can only use it at instant speed. They can't save it for their main phase. So at least slow them down a little bit. Nope, they tap the mana and we're not able to capitalize. Okay, so we got the tempo play here. We still have the removal, lots of removal. We're in a pretty reasonable shape. We don't mind them getting a couple counter, especially if they can't tap. They can't tap it yet. Marwyn doesn't become scary until a little bit later. So now we have some nice choices here. So they don't have any way to deal with flyers. They probably have some kind of removal in their deck, I would assume. So I think we just need to get Beckett Brass down next turn. So I think we just hold up. Maybe we just, let's just take Marwyn off the board now. That's probably the safest play. Instead of trying to hold up Tyrant Scorn to see what they do. Let's just get Marwyn off the board. So we get to Surveil, maybe find a... Okay, there's a black source. So I definitely think we want that for our Bedevil, and not going to say no to sleep. It's going to be pretty clutch in this matchup. So next turn we have 6 mana, so we can play Beckett Brass plus Scorn or the Captain. Yeah, because we have all the mana we need now. So they tap out just to get their Marwyn down. However, they have no way to block anything that we're doing here. And we're getting through for 9 damage, all the way down to 9. I don't think we need the Scorn, so let's just drop our Captain. Let's take your Marwyn. So, effectively removal in that way. And our opponent's reading Beckett Brass, like, oh. And I think we're nearing scoop territory. We'll see. I don't think Mono Green has a way to deal with this. Elvish Rejuvenator is not the answer. So we have... so we're missing a 3rd black source to do Bedevil and Tyrant Scorn. We got the sleep coming next turn though, so we'll just guarantee lethal. So yeah, it's a pretty fun matchup there. Marwyn Elf Ball can definitely get out of control. I haven't really seen it in Brawl, so that's kind of interesting. Alright, up against Atali. That's a fun one. Now, this is interesting. We have the unclaimed territory. Find a 3rd land. Pretty much everything else we do is going to be castable. I don't know. We have the Tyrant Scorn. We don't have black mana to actually cast it though, so that's a little sketchy. We definitely have to hit a 3rd land. We have no way to trigger the Siren Reaver for 3 mana, so I think we just have to mulligan. So we mulligan, and somehow we get the Royal Scions again, but we do get the Aerialist, which no way to trigger raid. It'll come down as a just a 1/2. We have all the lands we need, so just looking for more creatures, more pirates. So this is a situation where I should have played the command tower there. Whoops. So our opponent with the Scorch Spitter, it's interesting. Alright, so a little bit of a misplay there with the wrong land. So Royal Scions can come down. Tectonic Rift doesn't seem great. We already have Cosmotronic Wave. I don't think we need multiple of these effects, especially when we're lacking a pirate. We can kill Annex here. So Cosmotronic Wave is going to be pretty clutch. Do think we need to deal with Annex. Let's just do it on their turn, so that the creatures will have they can't get the free attack with the tokens. Guess we could wait to see if I have the Emerald Give or something, but I'll just fire it off. So they get the tokens. They have the 1/2, which is going to get around our Cosmotronic Wave, but almost might be worth firing off right here. So they do have some kind of a combat trick here. Nope, they're just going to activate the Sun-Colored Raptor. That's pretty cool. Getting in for 5. Ooh, for a lot of damage. We're quite low here. So we got the Rimrock Knight coming down next turn. So that'll be nice. I think we just have to save the wave until they get their 3/1 creature down, just for maximum effect. So I think we do that just to kind of clear their board a little bit, and then we still have 2 more effects. Looks like our opponent just has all the answers here. So we can gain some life if they attack in. Let's see, this can be a mana sink. It does get the power boost, but not toughness, so we'll take the trade. We're going to gain some life. And then we have a way to, oh, they had Samet Sprint. Wow, my opponent has just had it all. I mean, we're not technically dead yet, but virtually this game is over. So we'll do a little board clear action. This will get their 1/2, which they can sink mana into. We're at 11. This is out of the Bone Crusher Giant. This is out of the Tali. I mean, we're just not in a good shape here. Alright. We have to deal with this board, otherwise they're going to run over us. So we need to kill that. And we'll bounce that. So we're buying some time, but we're not in a good spot here. So they're gonna hit for 6. We're gonna go down to 4. Plus they're gonna get something off the top of our library. Yeah, this pretty awkward start from us. We tried to mulligan and just didn't quite have a good enough hand against them, and they've had a pretty good start. I mean, they curved out perfectly. They could flash in the Sailor to ooh, they got our Departed Deckhand. That sucks. Alright, against the Dalikos. That's pretty interesting. And we're missing red, but everything else is castable. Alright, we'll put faith in the deck to give us a red source here soon. Ornithopter. Now there's a Signet. But we have lots of 2-drops already, so I don't know if we want to play that on 2. We just need to get some creatures down. I guess if we Signet on 2, then we have multiple 2-drops on 4, which isn't terrible. So maybe I don't have a way to block our captain, so we'll just drop that. And next turn we can spend 2 mana to play Signet, and then we have another mana open for Dire Fleet Poisoner. So we'll go that route. And we can follow it up with Storm Fleet Sprinter. Okay, there's the Buccaneer. So they can easily double block. We kill their Ornithopter, but they keep Dalikos alive. Doesn't seem great for us. Champion of the Flame. That can get pretty scary. Okay, activating some abilities. Crystal Slipper. I'm gonna equip the champion. Give it haste. Make it a, what is it, 3/3? 4/3? Well, it has flying, so we can't block it thanks to Dalikos. We'll just flash in here. So 1 card in hand, 2 blue mana open. Don't imagine they're running a whole lot of counter magic. Alright, so we're stuck on 1 red. So, yeah, I think we just attack both. We'll decline. We want to Buccaneer with our Signet, and then flash in the Siren on their turn. We're going to reveal it, which kind of sucks, but I think it's still the right play. So they throw their Ornithopter away, or they have some kind of effect. Nope. his jump block with Ornithopter. So, yeah, we'll reveal a Pirates. End the turn. Okay, on their upkeep before they get to draw, we'll flash this in. So they had the answer. Okay. Well, we still get a 3/3 flyer down. And got that card out of their hand. Shadow Spear. That's pretty good for them. We need to deal with that. I mean, we have the Beckett Brass. Seven plus gain some life. Okay, so we have Menace, so they have to well, they could block. Dalikos could block one, and the token can block one. So we're not quite to stealing things yet, but I think it's still worth dropping the Beckett Brass here. Now we get the power toughness boost. We have pretty reasonable attacks. So they do get to prevent our Beckett Brass from triggering, which is unfortunate. However, we're in a good spot for next turn to follow up with the Storm Fleet Sprinter and steal their Champion of the Flame. So they have to block our Poisoner and Buccaneer. Thanks to Beckett Brass, we don't lose anything. They block wisely. So just hope they don't draw anything too crazy here. Just a land, perfect. Dalikos, well, not great. This sort of can get out of control quickly. I mean, look at this Champion of the Flame. That's pretty insane. There's a Temple of Epiphany. Okay, so that's flying now. We have one that can't be blocked, and we have a flyer that they have to block with the Champion. So they have two blockers. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think we just attack. We'll save the. I think we save Beckett Brass just to be safe and swing with everything else. And we'll pay 2. I don't think we need to leave Negate open in this spot. I think just going pedal to the metal. They can block something and gain some life, which kind of sucks, but we're still getting through for 3 things. So drop our Temple, scry into something relevant. Well, Warkite Marauder is not terrible, but I think I'd rather find some more interaction. And we'll take that. So they still have the equipment, so they can spend mana to re-equip things onto Dalikos, but they don't get the crazy power toughness boost that Champion of the Flame gets. Okay, so they spend all their mana just making it a 5/7, and that's it. Alright. So yeah, Admiral Beckett Brass, not the most OP commander, but yeah, it's done surprisingly well for me. Once you even just stealing one thing, that can just be kind of game over for your opponent. We have Grixis color, so some fantastic efficient removal. The only thing is just kind of the fixing. Obviously, we were kind of stuck on red mana that one game, but we do have the Arcane Signet. We do have just enough dual lands so that we can kind of cast whatever we need to, and it's kind of a nice balance of different colored spells, so you're not too caught up on a particular mana. It can get you sometimes, but that's just magic. So overall, feels like it's pretty. It's been done well for me. And you have things like Sleep, Cosmotronic Wave to guarantee that you're just going to get through for damage. Some nice evasive threats to deal damage. And then Beggar Brass just kind of sitting there waiting to come down whenever you're set up, ready to go, giving all your pirates the power toughness boost. You can kind of close out the game with your evasive threats. And then with all the flyers and unblockable creatures, yeah, it's pretty sweet. So thanks for watching, guys, and hope your FNM event goes well. Until next time, make sure you jank with a purpose.